All right, so it's a lovely good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the program this particular afternoon. Of course, this is a sponsored or paid for program, which we are calling the Mixed Member Electoral System Campaign, which is being run by Center for Young Leaders in Africa, the Zambian chapter, simply put as CYLA Zambia. I am your host, Lance Sani Banda, and thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. And of course, to help me discuss what we are looking at this week, as this is episode 3 of this particular campaign of the Mixed Electoral System campaign. In episode 3 today, we are looking at, does Zambia need a cocktail electoral system? To help me discuss this particular topic, and of course, coming through from CYLA is none other than Clement Kangwa Ngoma, of course, who is the who is a board member rather of CYLA. Mr. Ngoma, good afternoon and welcome to the program.
Good afternoon, Comrade Lance. Good afternoon, viewers. Glad to be on this platform today.
All right, and of course, just on a lighter note, our dear viewer, if you have seen Bembas are stealing names from the eastern part and now putting apostrophes and say it's not Ngoma but Ngoma.
Well, uh, we didn't steal it from you people. Obviously, you stole it from us first.
And took out the apostrophe.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. So, welcome to the program, my good comrade, and good to have you on the program. Let's get to at least get to learn more about you before we get into the program, since this is your debut appearance.
Thank you very much, Comrade Lance, and the amazing team on Ubuntu channel. My name is Clement Kangwa. I happen to be one of the board members who currently sits on the board for the Center for Young Leaders in Africa. As you may be aware, the Center for Young Leaders in Africa is a culmination of different originally political parties that saw the need for youth representation in governance spaces and adding a voice to the issues of inclusion of young people in governance spaces. So I actually happen to come from a political party that sponsored me to sit on the board. Yeah, so Center for Young Leaders in Africa is currently a combination of 8 major political parties in the country, but it is not limited to politicians that belong to political parties. Any young person interested in issues of governance is actually free to join the organization. So I come from that background.
All right. Thank you so much. And of course, to you, our dear viewers, we'll be getting your views, your comments, as well as your questions and sentiments on what we are discussing by you leaving a comment underneath this particular broadcast, either on Facebook, YouTube, as well as Twitter. We'll be glad to hear from you, and we'll be glad to know that you are a part of the program. And like I earlier mentioned, that this is episode 3 of the Mixed Member Electoral System campaign, and we are looking at, does Zambia need a cocktail electoral system? Now, Mr. Ngoma, let's get to start with first having our viewer understand what MMEs are, and of course, what does this MMEs seek to achieve?
Thank you, Comrade Lancy. The MMES is actually a short code for Mixed Member Electoral System. So when you hear the word MMES, the first thing that should come to your mind as a young person and to any viewer out there is the issue of Mixed Member Electoral System. As many may be aware that currently Zambia has an electoral system that is actually a hybrid, because at presidential level, we have a party list system where the president goes in together with the running mate, which was recently introduced, and we've seen it actually work now for 2 general elections, the 2016 elections and the 2021 elections, where we saw Madam Inonge winner going together with President Edgar Chagwa Lungu. We saw the last elections, Madam Mtalela Lumango, going alongside the Republican President Hakainde Hichilema. So we see we have a party list at the presidential level. Then when we go to parliamentary level, you realize that we have the first past the post electoral system, that the one that goes, the one that has one extra vote actually goes through. So we have different types of electoral systems globally. So as the Center for Young Leaders, we are saying we want a mixed member electoral system, an electoral system that is a hybrid. In a layman's language, it's a hybrid. It's a mixture of different electoral systems. As we go further into the discussion, we'll be able to delve into the issues and be able to explain what are some of the advantages of this mixed member electoral system and what Zambia tends to, Zambia would benefit should we adopt this electoral system.
All right. Now let's also maybe get to understand. Like, can you kindly briefly explain the proposed MMES model that CYLA has in mind?
Thank you very much, Comrade Lancy. So for us at the Center for Young Leaders in Africa, we are saying currently Zambia has 158 seats. Of those, I think we have 8 that come through nominations. As you may be aware, the president is currently constitutionally mandated to nominate 8 seats to parliament. And the nomination of these members of parliament to the House is basically actually by way of discretion. The president can choose you, Lancy, the president can choose me, or any other person to actually go to parliament by the constitutional provision that empowers him to nominate the 8. Then the other 150 are actually elected from all the constituencies that we have in the country. So as the Center for Young Leaders, we are saying 156. Yes, sure, 156 seats.
You can go ahead. Yes, sure. You can go ahead. I was just trying to make that correction that voted ones are 156. Sure.
156 go in directly by way of direct vote by different constituencies that we have in the country. So as the Center for Young Leaders in Africa, we are saying in addition to what we currently have, the Center for Young Leaders proposes an 60 additional seats to the House. These 60 seats, yes, we are proposing an addition of 60 seats to the House. Of these 60 seats, there will be actually 10. We are suggesting that 10 seats should be actually for persons living with disabilities. Yes, the 10 will be persons living with disabilities. Then we're saying 26 of those seats should be for the young people, and 24 seats will be for our women. That is the breakdown of the 60 additional seats that we are calling for. Yes, to be added in addition to the current number of seats that we have in the House.
Now, in the proposal, or in this proposal that you have made, how are you looking at it? Is it through delimiting some of these large constituencies, or maybe how do you hope for these 60 to be achieved?
Thank you very much. While we are actually strong proponents for the delimitation exercise, as a center, we are actually in support of the delimitation exercise for the constituencies. However, the 60 seats are not coming in by way of delimitation. The 60 seats, our proposed view is that these 60 seats, first of all, are coming in by way of legislative reforms. As you may
Okay.
be aware, yes, as you may be aware, the Constitution actually does provide the current number of seats in the House. So among the
Mm-hmm.
work that we are currently doing is to push for legislative reforms. We are calling for constitutional amendments, yes, so that the Constitution, first of all, can be able to be amended. As you may be aware, the Constitution is the supreme law of the land. So our starting
Yes.
point is to call for constitutional amendments and legislative reforms to the Electoral Process Act so that we can have 60 additional seats. And these 60 additional seats are coming in from provinces, and they will be by way of party lists. We are saying all political parties that are participating in an election, they will have
Mm-hmm.
internal elections. So during the elections at party structures, the party
Mm-hmm.
should be able to elect, the party should be able to nominate three additional people. The party should have elections for a candidate for persons living with disabilities, a candidate
Mm-hmm.
representing young people, and a candidate representing the women. In simpler
Okay.
terms, Comrade Lancy, we are calling for an introduction of a new ballot paper in addition to the current that we have. Currently, we have a presidential ballot paper, we have a member of parliament ballot paper, we have a mayor or council chairperson, and our councillors. We are calling for an addition, an introduction of an extra ballot paper that is actually three ballot papers that people will have a choice, will have a chance also to vote for a young person to represent them, for a woman to represent them, and for persons living with disabilities also to represent them in the House.
Now, so these people, according to the proposal that you have made as a center, these people will also be subjected to being voted for by the general populace.
We, as the Center for Young Leaders in Africa, we hold the view that things given on a silver platter are never appreciated generally. So we
Hmm.
are calling for an electoral process that will include
Okay.
young people, women, and persons with disabilities. We are not begging for seats to be given to us on a silver platter. No. We're saying equally these people will go through the competitive electoral process. But we understand that currently in these political parties, there are a lot of impediments, there are a lot of hindrances that hinder the young people to effectively compete with the already well established big politicians. We
Hmm.
currently understand that there are issues of political violence in the political space currently. So if we are going to have an electoral process, an electoral environment that is already hostile against women, we understand that the probability of having 10 women actually even run for parliamentary seat actually gets to be reduced even further. So we are saying
Hmm.
uh, we'll have special seats that will be competed and contested for by these three marginalized groupings. If you look
Okay.
at our statistics, if you look at our current demographics, you realize that Zambia is largely a youthful country. And you realize that Zambia largely has a lot of women out there. So leaving this huge demography actually out of governance structures is actually a disservice to this country. So when we begin to talk of inclusion, we are saying we don't want these seats on a silver platter. Our people are well able to compete for these seats, but we understand that there are these actually quite a number of challenges that they incur. And these are some of the issues that we'll be able to dive into even as we go further into our discussion.
Now, Comrade Kangwa, politics being what it is, or what it has been perceived as a game of lies or liars, for lack of a better term, what would be the criteria used by, obviously, let's say, the Center for Young Leaders in Africa, as well as with its cooperating partners and ECZ as an electoral body, use in seeing to it that really this is a youth who is participating in these three marginalized? As you already know, the current contest or contrast of these political parties. A youth chairperson, they are not youths, they are odd feeding youths. How, how culminate in them standing as youths representing youths when they are not?
Interesting. Actually, politicians always love to use a phrase that we are youthful at heart. Well, the starting point, comment, is that we have a number of legal instruments in this country that define who a young person is. We have the Labor Law Act, we have the National Youth Development Policy.
Yes.
These documents define who a young person is, and we understand that a young person is actually any person who is 35 and below. So, for instance, we understand that in the current cabinet, the president has not nominated any youth. Though we have seen some people that look youthful, we know that no
Yes.
one is 35 and below. Yes, so those are some of the issues. What we can do is that we can rely on our legal documents, and that is the starting point. So we want young people, and the young person is 35 and below.
Okay. Pretty interesting. Now, looking at this kind of an electoral system, do you think that Zambia is ready for such an electoral system, and what has been done in preparation for it? Suffice that it gets considered.
Is Zambia ready? You know, we say that the only constant thing in life is change. We need to embrace change at various stages of life, of growth. We understand that when Zambia got independence, later on, as the country was being governed, Kaunda and his friends, they introduced what they were calling one party democracy, where there was only one political party that was allowed, and if you needed to contest for any leadership position in the country, you needed to belong to UNEP. We got to 1990, the people said, enough of this, we need to go back to multi-party democracy. We went back to multi-party democracy. We saw MMD, we saw quite a number of political players on the scene. So change is inevitable, comrade. And if you look at the various constitutional commissions that have been instituted by a number of presidents in this country, from President Chiluba himself, may he so rest in peace, President Levi Patrick Mwanawasa, may he so rest in peace, one prominent thing keeps on coming out in those commissions, that the issue of inclusion of marginalized people has been so pronounced in those documents. People are calling for inclusion of women, young people, and persons with living with disabilities. So as to whether Zambia is ready, we need to prepare ourselves for this change, because living actually this huge demography out of governance is actually a disservice to this country. Zambia needs this system for an inclusive governance system. Currently, if you look at the numbers in parliament, you realize that we have less than 5%. We have less than 5% of our women that are in parliament. You look at that. If you look at the young people, actually, it's actually even a very contentious issue currently, because besides the MP for Nalolo constituents, who is actually in the youth bracket, these others actually, it's an issue that is debatable. They will tell you we are youthful, but the young person that we have as a member of parliament in that house currently, we are proud of him, is actually Honorable MP for Nalolo. So it tells you that those numbers actually are not good. So what do we do for us to increase the numbers? We need to change our electoral system, so that now we can be able to positively discriminate against the senior established politicians and be able to increase the numbers of the women, the young people, and the persons with disabilities in the house.
Now, Comrade Dingoma, you know, there's always a notion about the young people that they can't lead because, you know, they are still in their young age. So they are wasteful, they are always playful, nothing good comes out of them. All such sentiments have been made. And then also the young people are coming, oh, the old people are old, they are tired, they can't think development. Why a push for this agenda, or why a push for this type of electoral system? Why have or introduce the youths and young women into parliament?
Actually, from the onset, Comrade Lancy, we must be able to mention that as a center for young leaders in Africa, the issue of inclusion is not the old versus the young. No, we need to clarify that notion and be able to set the record straight. The issues of inclusiveness are, for once, can we be able to work together? Leadership is transitional. If you look at the current political leaders that we have in the country, His Excellency the President, Mr. Hakainde Hichilema, included, if you look at all the current political leaders that we have, if we gave them 20 years today and we closed our eyes and we gave them 20 years, who do you see to still be alive in the next 20 years? Definitely, most of them would have phased out. You understand, huh?
Yes.
Definitely, most of them would have phased out. So at some point, they need to begin to prepare the next crop of leadership to begin to take over this country. So whether they like it or not, this is a conversation we must have as a country. Because in the next 30, 40 years, they will not be there to run this country. This is why even the issue of debt contraction, young people must be consulted, because we are the ones who are coming to pay that debt. Yes, we are the ones that are coming to pay that debt. It's your children that are coming to pay that debt. So we are saying, consult us. Why do you consult us? Isn't it that debt contraction is a parliamentary issue? These are issues that are tabled in the House. So that's why we are saying young people's voice needs to be in that House so that their voice can be heard and they can have a say on how much successful governments are contracting, because that money will be paid off by you, me, and our children. So the issue of inclusion from the onset is not an issue of the old versus the young. No. We are saying, can you begin to prepare the next generation of leaders? Because at CYLA, we believe the future is actually now and not tomorrow.
Well, pretty interesting. Of course, our viewers, we are sharing with you the studio link so that you can join through into the studio. Join us into the studio, have a one-on-one conversation on the topic of discussion that we are looking at today. If you want, you can be part of the panel and express your view, express your concerns, put through your comments, and also just have a one-on-one interaction with us right here. This afternoon, we are looking at the electoral system. Does Zambia need a cocktail electoral system? Does Zambia need a cocktail electoral system? Of course, this is a program which is proudly sponsored or brought to you courtesy of Center for Young Leaders in Africa, CYLA, the Zambian chapter, of course, pushing through a mixed member electoral system campaign. And my guest this afternoon is none other than Clement Kangwa, who is a board member at CYLA there. Of course, Mr. Ngoma, before we get to the other question, let's get to look at what your cooperating partners are championing. That's the Zambia National Lobby Women, or Women's Lobby, simply put. Let's get to see that advert producer, and then after that, we get to come back as there is a burning question after that particular clip. Let's go to the clip and we'll be back on the other side.
Do you know that women, youths, and persons with disabilities still face discrimination and do not participate in political decision-making processes on an equal basis? Lack of involvement of women, youths, and persons with disabilities in decision-making often results in a failure to prioritize important issues that affect them, as they are not there to speak for themselves. This should not be the case, especially that the Constitution provides for the political inclusion of marginalized groups. But the Mixed Member Electoral System, or MMES, can help to change that situation. The Mixed Member Electoral System promotes broader inclusion in political participation through the addition of proportional seats for marginalized groups in Parliament. This guarantees not only the inclusion, but also increases the representation of women, youths, and persons with disabilities. You and I need to join civil society in lobbying for the adoption of a mixed member electoral system.
Thank you so much, and good to know that you are still watching this particular broadcast. Remember, you can be part of the conversation by joining us through into the studio. We have shared with you the studio link. Kindly click on it. When you click on it, allow your camera and your mic to be on so that we can have a great conversation. When you click on it, kindly and please remember to allow your mic and camera. Only through that will you be able to have an interaction with us in the studio properly. But of course, I guess you have just tuned in. This is a paid for program or sponsored program by Center for Young Leaders in Africa, the Zambian chapter, on the campaign of mixed member electoral system. And this afternoon, we are looking at this need a cocktail electoral system. To help us discuss that particular topic is Clement Kangwa, who is the board member at CYLA. Now, Mr. Ngoma, I would like us, to come to this. Obviously, from that clip, we have heard that the constitution, or Zambia's highest, the land's highest order, or which is the constitutional law, stipulates or encourages that these marginalized people should be allowed to participate in the electoral system of Zambia. Is it possible that also the same constitution can allow for, can provide for this MMES, system?
Thank you very much. We must put it on record that the current constitution does actually allow every Zambian citizen to aspire for any political office in the land, be it at councillor level, be it at parliamentary level, be it at presidential level, as it may be. However, we understand that the political ground has equally its own dynamics. A survey was conducted that prior to the 2016 constitutional amendment, majority of elected councillors across the country were old businessmen and women that were running either small shops in their wards, that had either running businesses or were established landlords in those particular wards. What am I trying to drive at? They had the financial muscle to run in these elections competitively, and the majority of them were able to win. When we pushed in a constitutional amendment that introduced a clause, the Grade 12 clause, we saw a lot of political parties across the divide go for a lot of young people to run as councillors. Do you know why that was the case? Because political parties realized that majority of these big and established guys in these wards, actually quite a number of them didn't have grade 12 certificates. They went for younger people, and we saw a change of face of a lot of councils across the country. We saw a lot of young people coming into council chambers. Why? Because they had grade 12 certificates. Now we've seen a lot of senior politicians rewriting their grade 12s. What am I trying to say? At times we can use the law to positively discriminate and be able to bring about a positive change. While the Republican Constitution allows anyone to stand,
Mr. Ngoma, are you still there?
The political atmosphere.
Okay.
Sorry about that. Okay. So I was saying the political landscape is so disadvantageous to these three marginalized people. Today, we have the issue of nomination fees, for instance. If you, Comrade Lancy, a young person who's just attained the age of 35, you want to run for president, do you know how much you need to raise to run for president? Are you telling me, for you, a young person that recently graduated from the university, you have 100,000 kwacha to pay the Electoral Commission of Zambia? So these are some of the legal impediments that actually begin to hinder young people from actively participating in the electoral process. When you look at the issue of political violence across all the political parties, you realize that where there's political violence, our mothers will shy away because women cannot survive in a violent political environment. So much as the Constitution has left it open, we understand that some of these issues that hinder our women, the persons living with disabilities, and the young people from actually successfully run in these political spaces are issues that are actually so vivid and evident in our political space. So this is why we're saying, besides the Constitution permitting us, we want an affirmative action that will increase the numbers of these marginalized people. Let's deliberately increase the numbers of these people. I'll give you a practical scenario, comrade.
All right. We seem to.
I'll give you a practical. People are enjoying the program, but instead of following the program, they seem to be calling me.
Okay.
Yes, they seem to be calling me straight. So I'll give you a scenario.
Tell them to join the discussion. We've shared the link.
Definitely. That's what I'm trying to tell them. Please go to the link, you people. Go to the link. Go to the link. For instance, look at what happened in Chipata. In Chipata, we have a young mayor today, Comrade George Mwanza. Comrade George Mwanza was adopted by the Patriotic Front to run as a mayor. Overnight, the senior politicians withdrew his adoption certificate.
Yes.
You see how subjective the systems in the political parties can be. This is a candidate that was popular on the ground, a man that people wanted in the district, but a political party withdrew his adoption certificate. Had it not been for the courage of Mayor George Mwanza, he would have not been on the ballot today.
Yes.
Was it because he was not a good candidate? Certainly no, because the political party made a decision. So we are saying these are some of the issues. How many young people, how many courageous young people do we have out there who can stand up to the political system like Comrade George was able to stand? We need a lot more young people in the house. And if you look at George today, he's one of the best mayors that we have in the country.
Yes.
The young man has been able to deliver. So even this notion of saying young people are not ready to lead has been proven to be wrong, because George is doing a great job in the capital city of the Eastern Province, Chipata. And I'm sure you, Comrade Banda, you are so happy. You are a happy young man every time you look at that young man doing a wonderful job in the capital city of the Eastern Province, Chipata. So we are saying let's have an environment that will enable a lot more young people to emerge and be able to take up leadership responsibilities.
Now, comrade, how possible is it, that this system can be adopted by the current life of parliament? Because looking at it, when we look at the youth representation, you had rightly put it, it's below 5%, which I would say it's somewhere around 0.02%, if I'm not mistaken. The representation of women is something else. Do you think these reforms can work in a bid to try and introduce the mixed member electoral system in the constitution?
Well, our greatest asset as young people is hope. We are hopeful in the sense that a lot serious conversations are taking place between the three civil society groupings that are pushing this agenda: the CYLA, Women's Lobby, and ZAFOD. We are having serious engagements with the Office of the Vice President. As you may be aware, issues of elections and the electoral process and amendments have actually been pushed to the Office of the Vice President.
Yes.
So we are having a lot of serious engagements with the Office of the Vice President, and we are so grateful that the response so far has been positive. We have had the stakeholder engagement meetings with the Law Association of Zambia and the Parliamentary Caucus for Youth Parliamentarians in Parliament. So far across the divide, we seem to have positive sentiments coming from these different sectors. As to whether we'll be able to walk the talk and now put the final nail on that coffin that has been hindering young people and women and persons living with disabilities to have more seats in parliament, it is another journey that we'll be able to see. But for now, I can affirm and confirm that actually we've had serious engagements with the Office of the Vice President, the Zambia Law Development Commission, the Law Association of Zambia, and Parliament itself. So far we seem to have a lot of goodwill from quite a number of politicians, parliamentarians from both the ruling and the opposition in the House. They seem to agree with the young people that it is time we made serious considerations to include young people, women, and persons living with disabilities.
All right, so our viewer, like we have mentioned, we've shared the studio link with you. Kindly click on it if you want to join us into the studio, or if you want to ask a question, you want to express a view, you want to comment on the issue that we are discussing. Simply leave a message underneath this broadcast, and we'll be glad to attend to it, to read it, as well as if it's a concern or a question, get to respond to it right here and have your need or needs attended to. So as you are clicking on that link, kindly allow your camera and mic to come through into the studio and join us right here. This afternoon, we are discussing, does Zambia need a cocktail electoral system? Of course, this is on a campaign that CYLA is running that is to deal with a mixed member electoral system. Of course, we'll be glad to hear from you. Director, quickly, let's see if we can read just 3 messages or concerns that have come through, and then we get on with the program, as I still have at least more questions for my brother and comrade Ngoma right there. Just 3 messages, and then we get back to comrade Ngoma. Director, do we have messages? All right, Alfred, how can I join? All right, Alfred, we've shared the link. Kindly click on it, and we'll be glad to have you into the studio. Thank you so much for joining the program and watching. Sojabu, great discussion. Thank you so much, Sojabu. Good to know that you are also following the program, and it's good to see that young people are actually following the program. Now, Comrade Ngoma, let's get to the other question that I have. Like, you civil societies that are pushing for the mixed member electoral system. They are three of you, Zafford, CYLA, as well as the women's lobby. How is the information flow, or how are you CSOs pushing for this agenda or pushing for this campaign, disseminating information, especially about the MMES? How are you disseminating it?
Thank you very much, comrade. As a consortium of civil societies that have teamed up to push this agenda of inclusiveness, we are currently running a campaign that we are calling "Leading Zambia Together." We are
Okay.
running a campaign currently. We are calling "Leading Zambia Together" through MMES. So,
Wow.
Leading Zambia Together through MMES is our campaign that we are currently running. And we want to, from the onset, be able to acknowledge the great input from you, the media, that have been able to shine a light on this great campaign. I appear on Pan African Radio every Tuesday at 19 hours. We are running this advocacy campaign. So, Leading Zambia Together through MMES, we have very interesting and eye-catching phrases. We have launched T-shirts. We have
Mhm.
T-shirts that have this messaging. We have also been able to run with posters and flyers. So we are saying leading Zambia together through MMES. Tonse tilipoche, Zambia
Mm.
ziko ya iko, meaning Zambia is a country for everyone and everyone must get involved in leading this country. So
Mm.
ours is about inclusivity and not necessarily a fight between the old and the new generation. No, we are saying include us now and prepare us for leadership. How do you prepare the young people for leadership? Let them begin to sit on the table with you and begin to teach them the ropes and how it is done. So we are running this advocacy campaign. People can check out our socials on our social platforms. We've been running weekly draws where we're asking questions. What is MMES? How can it benefit young people? How can it benefit women? How can it benefit people living with disabilities? And we have small giveaways. We have stickers for laptops. We have stickers for cars. We have T-shirts. We have smaller bags that we are giving out. So we are running this advocacy campaign, and so far we seem to be able to reach out to the masses. I know there's need for us to do more, but so far we are on the ground with the Leading Zambia Together campaign through MMES.
How is it that I haven't won any when I have serious information on MMES?
You have not been able to actively take part in these draws, but suffice to say that behind the cameras you'll be able to tell me your t-shirt size. I can be able
Mm.
to deliver your t-shirt, and those stickers I should be able to deliver them for you and the other comrades at Ubuntu.
Thank you so much for that. Now, I deliberately mentioned that because I want to ask another question in regards with the same campaign. Like, how does one get involved in this campaign?
So we are calling on young people. We are calling on all the women out there. We are calling on the people living, our persons living with disabilities. We are calling you. Let's join hand together and be able to speak with one voice. Let's ensure that our voice is heard in Parliament. How does one get involved? You can get involved through the Zambia Women's Lobby. You can get involved through the Zambia Federations for Persons with Disabilities, ZAFOT. Or if you're a young
Mm.
person like me, you can get involved through our socials. You can get involved through our socials. We are CYLA Zambia on Facebook. We are CYLA Zambia on Twitter. So you get involved. You can get in touch with us. I should be able to share our contacts as CYLA
Mhm.
towards the end of this program. So we want more young people out there to just get involved and ensure that we are ahead.
Now, getting back to the discussion, has CYLA done its groundwork? Especially when making uh, how proposals, when making a proposal that MMES should be introduced. Has CYLA, with a consortium of other CSOs, done its background work on what really hinders the youths, the women, and people living with disabilities participation in the current electoral system which is running? And does it also address, as you prepare that same report, does it address those issues that you have seen which are hindering these three marginalized groups?
Actually, we have done our work, I should be able to say. We've been able to actively engage major stakeholders, and a research was done prior to commencement of this campaign. We have a document that highlights some of the challenges that our women face, especially in the rural areas. Haven't you noticed that almost all the members of parliament that represent rural constituencies come from town and they just go and stand there? So what happens is that you, Lancy, when you make a few monies in Lusaka, you go to your village and you go stand as MP. And every time they look at you, they think you are bonanza, you have money. We want to begin to grow leadership at grassroots level. We believe the best member of parliament is one who has lived with the people long enough, who knows their problems. So we have done a research and we've seen that a number of issues actually do hinder our women. For instance, if it's the women, it's the issue of financing, it's the issue of political violence, it's the issue of the patriarchal system that naturally actually disadvantages them. Before you and I go to a political meeting, we'll ask our wife to prepare us breakfast. We'll ask our wife first to look after our children. And yet her and I were attending the same meeting. Haven't you noticed? Before you get the point.
Yes,
so
yes.
already she's disadvantaged because she has 2-3 hours of doing home chores before she can now get involved in the political meeting. A lot of your political meetings and decisions, you make them at night, you men. Which woman will be allowed to leave her home at 23 hours to come and attend a political meeting that you're having at a secret place, making decisions and adopting candidates? So those are the issues that hinder actually some of our great women. It's issue also the issues of cyberbullying today, the political insults. One politician that I know has been greatly insulted in this country is Honorable Dora Syria. Look at Honorable Sylvia Masebo. Look at President Edith Nawaku. These are some of the women that are insulted every day by young people, by different people on Facebook who use fake names. So it's this toxic political environment that hinders our women from that shies our women from taking part in this electoral process. So these are some of the issues that disadvantage our women. If you look at the young people, it's the issue of capital. If you have a 10,000 kwacha today, Comrade Lance, what are your priority areas? Would you rather use that 10,000 to vie for a seat in Matero as a member of parliament, or you'd rather use that 10,000 and start up a small business to be able to sustain you? Yes, so those are some of the issues that hinder young people from participating in this electoral process. There are so many issues that we can go on and on and on, but generally and basically, these are some of the issues that hinder our women, that hinder our young people. And if you look at the persons with disabilities, my goodness, it's a lot of things to do, even just with the infrastructure that we have in this country. It's not user-friendly to them. Before he can come for an interview, he needs a wheelchair. You get the point. So those are some of the issues that hinder our persons living with disabilities. How can we equalize? How can we equalize? The starting point is that let's be able to create 60 more additional seats for these people, so that before we can talk about how many numbers we have in parliament, we know that at least they have 60 seats reserved for them, but they'll get them through a competitive process. They'll not get them on a silver plate.
Well, lastly, as we wind down on this interview, how long do you intend to take for this campaign?
We understand that for this campaign, it has stages. We right now we've been actually in our first stage, stage one. We've been dealing with a push for legislative reforms, constitutional amendments. So we're in constant serious engagements with the Law Association of Zambia, with the Zambia Law Development Commission. We are pushing for amendments to the Electoral Process Act to start with. We are pushing for constitutional amendment. We had the Honorable Justice Minister. He has put it on record that so far they are receiving unsolicited submissions on the constitutional amendments. One of the constitutional amendments that will be taking to Parliament ourselves proposals is that the constitution will be amended to include the 60 seats. You know, the law says, the constitution says there shall be 158 parliamentary seats in Zambia. We want that piece of law to be amended so that it can include the 60 seats for persons living with disabilities, the women, and the young people. So that is the first stage. And besides that, we are also running this campaign, the Leading Zambia Together campaign, on Facebook, on radios, on TV. We are running this campaign. So we believe that it's gaining momentum, and we shall continue making noise until the voices are heard. Personally, I'm currently only 31. I'm remaining with 4 years, but I know that even if we don't get the seats today, at least those that are coming behind us will still be able to get the seats. We will not stop advocating for this until the voice of the young people, the voice of the persons living with disabilities, and the voice of our mothers are effectively represented in the House. For instance, before 2016, before 2015, Zambia had never had a female vice president. But tell me one thing, comrade. Since we've had now two vice presidents, female vice presidents, in Madam Narumango and Madam Inongewena, haven't they made great vice presidents? They've been great mothers to this nation. It tells you that when given a chance, women are better leaders, actually. They can lead as well. We are seeing how the vice president currently answers questions in parliament. We are seeing how the vice president is able to represent the country. Right now, she's in Ivory Coast representing Zambia. Are we not proud as a country? It makes it should give us pride as a nation to see our women taking part and being in the front leading this country.
Wow, that is very insightful, and it's obviously good to know that the center is actually taking that and doing this campaign, obviously in phases, hoping that we'll be able to see, at least. Okay, hoping that we'll be able to see a mixed member electoral system being introduced in the country. And there, my guest appears to be frozen. I think internet has done its worst. But however, this is where we end today's program. Thank you so much for being part of the program, as well as for sending through those messages, for following, for the likes and the sharing. We really appreciate. This is the third edition of our mixed member electoral system campaign, which is brought to you courtesy of young people, young leaders rather, in Africa. That is CYLA, right? The Center for Young Leaders in Africa, the Zambian chapter. And this afternoon, I had a board member of CYLA, who is Clement Ngoma, or Clement Kangwa Ngoma, who was explaining on the topic of discussion, which is, does Zambia need a cocktail electoral system? Of course, we'll be back again next week, Tuesday. Catch us from 15:30 as we continue with this particular campaign and also covering CYLA. Remember that this is a sponsored program by CYLA. Thank you so much. Good afternoon and enjoy the rest of the day. I've been your host, Lance Sani Banda, and of course, with the help of my producers, that is CJ, as well as Emmanuel Nkonika. Thank you